Okay, what's up, guys? We're trying to figure out how we can do a podcast with one microphone. And I don't love it, but
In a room that has no sound reducing qualities to it.
can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I'm sure they could hear that.
So this is a mic that we usually use to make music, but we're kind of in like the fuck around and find out stage of podcasting. So we don't want to spend a whole lot of money if we're not sure we're going to continue on this endeavor.
Yeah. Fuck around and find out stages, and like this is our first one. So
Yeah, like right now we have like lights that we use to grow microgreens. And yes, we really got them to grow microgreens.
and they are taped to the wall
And they're taped to the wall.
with electrical tape.
And then we have like a bed over here that's just covered in clothes that we need to fold.
This spot looks nice though.
Yeah.
I think this is the shit they usually don't tell you.
Mm-hmm.
Behind the scenes stuff. They usually don't start off with this, I don't think. I think.
So this is it's gonna be nice if we do continue this endeavor to go back and see our very first episode and how it looked and how it sounded. I think you'll have the biggest issue with how it sounds, but
Yeah.
because that's like your thing.
Yeah. And it's not going to be fun listening back to this, trying to edit it.
But yeah, have we decided on a name? Are we going with Happiness Needs Company?
I like Happiness Needs Company.
I think so too. I like that.
It's kinda
That's the
like
name.
It's kind of like a full circle type deal.
Yeah.
She's had the Happiness Needs Company email since.
And I just went and
What?
bought the domain name again, so don't even try.
Was that middle school or
No,
high
but that's
school?
what's crazy is that I started Happiness Needs Company when I was a senior. Because I remember I made my first blog in the library.
Right before you went to Costa Rica is when you started it?
No, like during my senior year.
Oh,
And
okay.
then, like, I remember I used to, like, write you letters, basically. And I would post them on Happiness because it does definitely make sense.
I'd say so.
Which
Solid
I got
thing,
the name
solid
from
thing.
a Red Hot Chili Peppers song, shout out, because it was like Happiness Meets Company, right? But yeah.
Yeah, I can't say I'm the most familiar with Red Hot Chili Peppers. But I'll support you in your music listening habits.
I had a face.
Definitely just spilled this on me. No worries.
We're drinking my version of hot toddy because we didn't have any lemon, so I used lemon essential oil and a little bit of lemonade and some honey and cinnamon and whiskey and water because this dude has a cold. So it's not.
Yeah, if you know me and you're listening to this, you're probably like, why are you trying to make your voice sound deeper? And
trying to sound so cool. So it's midnight right now. It's 12:20 because we've been talking about doing this podcast for a couple of weeks, and we've set up a couple of days to do it that just haven't worked out. And then we were finally like, okay, it's the weekend. Let's get the kids in bed and try it out. And the kids didn't fall asleep until midnight.
Yeah, she says that like it's not a normal thing. It's like,
Well, it did
they
seem
go
a
to sleep
little
so
late today. It seemed a little late.
One of the worst I feel as a parent is whenever I'm talking to other parents and they're like, "Oh yeah, we get our kids in bed by 8 o'clock, so we still have
No,
time
I
to
have
do
friends
things."
who
I'm
who get their kids in bed at 6:30.
I'm literally over here completely uncomposed. How did you do this? Please. Just give me
okay,
the cheat codes.
But the other side of that is that they get up at 6:30, and I
Yeah.
feel like I don't love that. I wouldn't love that.
No,
Mm-mm.
because that'd be all on you. So
Yeah.
So it's a trade-off. Let your kids go to bed later, and they're gonna wake up way later.
Some people say that they let their kids go to bed late and they wake up early anyway. So, but we got lucky. Our kids both sleep pretty late.
Yeah.
So 9,
They sleep-
8:30,
they sleep-
9.
They sleep like we wish we could.
Yeah, yeah, legit. They are good sleepers. But it was funny. We're putting them. So we have to lay down with both of our. We have two boys, and they're toddlers. They're little munchkins, and we have to lay with them when they fall asleep. And Atlas is our 4-year-old. He kept knowing that Corey was trying to leave, and he'd be like, nah, he'd be like literally dead asleep, and then be like, nah,
don't you dare,
don't you dare, don't you dare move. So he'll probably come stomping in here any moment
at some point,
and be very upset that we left him.
If there's a hard cut, that's why. So
yeah, we will come back. So yeah, how do you feel about being on a podcast, babe? This is you technically, well, okay, you did one podcast episode with me, but it's like your first.
Yeah, I'm not really used to, so we make music, and I'm fine with, writing all of my lyrics and rapping them, recording them, mixing them myself, but most of the time, it's like me by myself in a room. I'm never having to, like, just have a dialogue with myself or, have a recorded dialogue with you or any other person.
Yeah, like, he doesn't
it's
do,
really
like, you don't really film yourself making stories or,
No, I'm
like, this
definitely,
is going to be a getting used to for you, I feel like.
Yeah, even just the whole content aspect in general, which is hard because I know for music and the things that and the places I would like to be with it, I need to be able to make content, and I need to be more content brained in the aspect of like, okay, this is just the way that you reach an audience. Because I was listening to a podcast not that long ago, and it was like a lot of people struggle with making content, but if you're really looking at it from an objective perspective, like, okay, if we wanted to make music, back in the day, they were having to go out on the street, and
back
they were back in my day, no, before my day.
Dude, isn't it weird how like you've become that person now? I've become that person where I'm like, well, back in the day.
No, I'm very cognizant of if I'm just being an old fart or not. Like, I try to give, like, when I have those thoughts, I usually don't say anything about it because I'm like, dude, it's so
literally the same.
No, there's just so many people that have that I've had conversation with where they were like, well, back in my day, like, it was like this, or like,
it was only 10 cents for a
I remember better times, and like, no, it's just different times. Like, it doesn't matter. I really try to stay cognizant of like, okay, I would like to be able to acknowledge to myself when I'm out of touch with current trends or like the way that younger people talk in general. I'm like, okay, but I get the gist of what you're saying.
No, but there have been some changes where it's like so drastic that like I definitely feel myself like being like, no, like back in my day, like, I don't know, like
you have become the old fart.
I am. But what were you saying back in the day? Content, music. I cut you off.
I don't know. It's just so perfect with you wearing your Oscar the Grouch shirt. Like, no, so what I was saying is that, it really puts it into perspective of like, okay, really all I have to do is spend like an hour here and there, like making a certain amount of content to put out in order to get seen. Whereas back in the day, I was like, no, I had to plan an entire day to go out in my city to hand out mixtapes, like, regardless of the weather.
Like, raise thousands and thousands of dollars.
Basically, you had to be, you basically had to be the best salesman for yourself. And that's not even getting into how much it costed just to record yourself.
Mm-hmm. It's so crazy because, like, artists before, like, it was the entirety of their existence was, like, leading up to be able to make an album. Like, that's, like...
You had to have an album. Now,
the only way to make an album is to have, like, either get a label to, take you on and, like, because it was just so expensive.
They just have to invest so much. Well, that's not even getting into...
I'm sure it's still expensive.
That's not even getting into the split side and, like, what you're actually getting. Like, say a label puts $100,000 to you making an album. You don't make any money until the label's paid back. Now it's like people can just walk into their bedroom, record something, like go look up some YouTube tutorials or go look at Reddit or some website that will teach you about audio engineering, which is essentially what I'm all self-taught with all of this. And so it's just wild to me the amount of people that basically can make a career out of doing this without having to go get a formal education for it and go in depth to be able to do it. It's really all at your fingertips. You just have to be willing to go out and look for the information and try things out. because there's no lack of information out there
Well,
on
and
the
I
wrong
think
things.
I think like the most important thing is just starting with what's available to you. I think a lot like with the podcast, it's like it's so easy like for me to be able to be like, okay, well, you know, transition. We can do a podcast with like one person, but like transitioning into a podcast with two people, like you need a certain like it's like I want everything to be the best of the best. So then it's like, okay, well, and you're like this for sure, but like. It's like I don't know. Like I feel like we just have to fucking start with what you have.
For me, the hardest thing is I don't know how you were able to just like streamline your thoughts into like an hour-long podcast by yourself, just talking about shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's very weird to me, and I think it's
probably because I have mental illnesses.
No,
like the fact that I can talk to myself for that long. Like, what is wrong with you?
I don't think it's that. I think everyone just has a different skill set, and some people are more like. Their brain works in different ways in a sense where like, okay, I understand that this is all practice. I understand that if you just do it, you get better at it. But I feel like you are definitely more of a natural with it.
Okay.
Like just being able to talk to yourself, streamline a thought, and like work your way through it in the moment talking to yourself. Whereas for me, and we've definitely talked about this, so we know we're different in this way, where I really need to sit and think about things. I'll produce a song, and I'll start playing it, you know, to start writing for it, and she'll come in there and just fucking freestyle the entire thing, and it's so frustrating to me because sometimes it takes me like multiple weeks to write an entire verse.
But that's also like the amount of words that you use in a song. Is so many more words than what I would use.
Well, I would like to fall back on the theory that like, okay, I just like to be well thought out with what I'm saying. But that's not true because you can still, and other people, there are so many people like this, they can just come in and freestyle a thought that is extremely well thought out to where you might not even realize the knowledge you're dropping in the moment, but then you go back and listen to it. Like for me, I'm like, no, I have to think about what I want to say. Like and if I don't think about it, then it doesn't come out right. Like it just comes out like
that's like good to know.
I see that you were trying there, but it didn't really pan out.
Yeah, like I feel like we're like that in our arguments too. It's interesting how like you start to get to know each other. Like when you're married, it's like we used to make music before we were married, and before we kind of like had to go through the challenges of marriage. And I feel like the way that we make music has like seeped into the way that we operate as well, like within our relationship. Do you think so? You have to think about it.
Case in point.
No, but when we were doing this podcast, he was like, wait, what are we talking about? I'm like, I don't know.
I wanted to know what we were going to talk about.
Yeah, which I think like we don't know like where exactly we want to go with this podcast. We just knew we wanted to do something together. And music is something we can do together, but I feel like this is something that we can be like...
in the same room doing at the same time together. Like we used to do our music that way. But now we haven't really been able to because, you know, someone has to be able to watch the kids. Like, there's always something to do around here. So it's like, okay, well, let's just try to get the most out of our time. Like, good time management. And
it's like with a song, it's like, it takes it's a lot longer process to come and, like, put together a song, like, because he, like, produces it. Then we write it together. Sometimes we're not even together when we write it. Mm-hmm. Like sometimes it's like, oh, well, he has a verse on something and then like he sends me the song and then I start like just singing while I'm in the car with the kids or whatever and like come up with the chorus. And then, you know, the last song I guess we kind of were writing together. And then it's like, then that needs to be recorded and that needs to be recorded separately. Because like he needs to do his part and then I need to do mine and then like we record, you know, harmonies or like whatever and then you have to mix it. So it's like to get a finished product with the song, it does take so much more effort. Yeah, and you're also still like, it's like when we have an idea of like, oh, I want it to sound like this and I want it to, like you're still learning all of that. Like it's so crazy to see like your progression in the last couple of years. And it's like we've been like, I think that as we make music, it's like we're trying to challenge ourselves more with that part of it of like, I was like the last time I'm like, it needs an orgasm. It needs something that like.
You mean organ or actual orgasm?
Orgasm.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm, yeah, it needed a piercing moment, you know. It needed to get in there.
That's definitely where I've noticed the biggest difference in my mixing is whenever you ask me to do some wild shit like you usually do, and I'm like, I can actually do this.
Yeah,
now.
like the
I'm
last song, "Old Me," that's out now on Spotify and all things. Shameless drop.
Shameless plug.
Our band
brutal.
name is Cosmic Contract. Yeah, go look us up. But go look us up. But yeah, it was cool that you were able to like put some little weird shit in there, little weird noises and stuff. I was like, oh, I want this. Stuff like this. Yeah, that's fun. It's fun, like, because I feel like definitely there we were. Okay, first off, we started making music with other people's instrumentals, so we were already really limited on what we could do because
just legally, we had no licenses for anything.
Well, yeah,
like,
I'm just speaking about like the dynamics of a song in general. Like we were just limited to like.
I have so much less control whenever I'm using like someone else's instrumental because it's just one audio file. Whereas with what we do now, I separate out every instrument. I'm able to mix every instrument individually, and I'm able to blend our voices in a way that actually sounds like it sits and fits in the song.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like same style, basically.
But anyways, with the podcast.
Yeah, with the podcast.
It's like something that we could sit down for an hour and like have a finished product. And I feel like that's something that is like good for us to have right now and this time of our lives, because with the amount of time and effort that it takes to complete one song and the amount of time and effort, or the amount of time available to us together like this, it's like we can be working on a song and like maybe working on a song for a month or something, but then we could also pump out a couple of podcasts in between there, because it's just like 1 hour that we can sit or whatever. Maybe we'll go for the entirety of the night, who fucking knows, but but yeah, so yeah, what are you the most excited about when it comes to like having a podcast? Like, what do you feel like is the real purpose of doing this?
I really don't know. I'm hoping to find it out along the way. I think the number one thing is just having the time to be able to like sit down with each other and like have a conversation. It's just kind of like a bonus that we have the ability to be able to record and film and put it out there, because we're pretty conceited. We think we have good conversations. So.
I know, it's like, what right do we have to think that people will have to like will even want to listen to us? But I'm like, who the fuck cares? I really enjoy talking to you. Like,
I enjoy talking to you too.
Yeah,
that's sweet.
I do. No, like I feel like that.
We're married. It better be the case.
Yeah, I feel like this is gonna be really good and important for our relationship, and that's, I feel like coming into it, I feel like it's really good to just come into it with no expectation. That's why I'm like, I don't want to like invest all this money and then feel the pressure to like have to perform and to like have to make it. Like, I'm definitely going through that phase, because like I feel like I've been like in a state of like performance, like trying to get, you know, like kind of on that train of like the next viral reel and like, you know, selling online and like all this stuff. And I feel like coming in to this with like no expectations except for it being like the #1 podcast in the world, then like
that is literally the most oxymoronic thing you can say.
No, but I think
having no expectations except for the highest expectations. That's some Ricky Bobby shit right there. If I'm not first, I'm last.
Yeah,
and she is super competitive. So
yeah, no, but sense. Like I think that just kind of like, let's just see where this goes and let it be more for us than other people, and then if people enjoy. But I feel like a really cool concept for podcasts in the future would to be like to have like a bucket of topics that we literally just pull from and then like go down that topic. Maybe sometimes they're like questions about our relationship, and like I was thinking like we could do them up until we have people who actually listen to us, and then maybe like people can have ideas.
See, this is the difference in us as just humans, is that you would absolutely love to be able to pick a random topic out of a bucket and just go on and on about it. And I would be over here, like, bringing fucking studies to be, like, referencing.
Well, that's what I think would be cool, is, like, if we did that. Like, if we, okay, so maybe then we have a podcast where, like, we do one where we riff on it in the moment, and then we have one that we draw for the next show. And we start with that one, and that one has, like, we have more time to, like, investigate. But I also feel like we could investigate during a podcast. Like, if we had a computer, we need another computer.
An extra computer.
Yeah, oh, well, this is already growing, you guys. We need new microphones, new headphones, all the things.
can never have a good enough one.
Yeah.
Your budget can only increase.
Yeah. And a new computer. That is definitely on our list of things to do in the future. Because music, podcasts, videos, like everything that we do really is centered around computer. Actually. Yeah. So
yeah. Yeah, so we pretty much came into this blind. We had no topics that we had picked out beforehand, even though I really would like to have had topics picked out beforehand.
I'm going to come out with a topic.
All right, 3, 2, 1.
Bingo. That's just what came to mind. I don't know how we...
It's really weird because I want to say old people, but also the only time I've ever played bingo whenever I was a kid, and I absolutely loved it.
I don't think I've ever gone into a place to play bingo. Actually, yes, but I don't remember where, and I only remember seeing someone that had no nose.
I would just love, not to tangent, but I would just love to take some acid and think about how if I was a Neanderthal and someone tried to come communicate, like, hey, one day you're gonna be in this place that smells like Pampers, but old, and you're gonna be using these ink blots to stamp pieces of paper and win things, but there's gonna be someone,
like gift cards.
There's gonna be someone with this really cool wheel contraption. We'll teach you about the wheel later, and just turning it. And
wait, when is this? Who are you talking to right now?
Literally anyone before the 1800s.
Okay. I mean, like, there's so many things, like, if you were gonna describe, like, something, like, the way it functions. Like, okay, wait. What is the weirdest thing that, like, if you were gonna go back in time, okay, and you were gonna just, like, blow somebody's fucking mind with a contraption of some kind, like something that is now.
The limiting factor is you have to be able to describe it, because immediately I'm like, the internet. But how are you going to describe the internet to someone that's never experienced the internet?
I mean, we kind of lived through that, didn't we?
Yeah, but that's like a gradual progression to where, like, okay, like you slowly see everything coming, as opposed to you never knew what a computer is. You never even knew what electricity is. You never knew any of this.
Wait. What did people actually think that the internet, like, what was the internet being sold at first? Like, was it just, like, going to be, like, a giant database? Like, do you know?
I don't know.
I feel like I listened to a podcast
let's take
or
some
something.
guesses. Let's take some very inaccurate guesses right now. I feel like it was probably
I feel like
more
a
of a
database.
military thing.
Yeah, no, I feel like they probably, like, launched it as a database type of thing, and people were like, why the fuck would I want my shit just, like, on there?
I know that's how it started out, where people didn't really know the application of it. And then
people, like, fought it. It's kind of like people fighting, like, the AI GPT thing. Which, there we go. Chad GPT, babe. What do you think about Chad GPT?
Chad GPT? I got some hot takes on Chad GPT.
I gave them, like, a thumbs up, and I gave them, like, I
left a positive review.
I gave them, like, one positive thing, and, like, my sister was like, no.
I don't know. It's hard because so much of it has been, like, politicized, and there's also, like, the fear-mongering behind it of, like, okay, any step towards any kind of artificial intelligence is going to cause the end of humans.
No, okay.
But you got to look at it, like I said, like in the sequential step order. But also, I realize that...
What did you just say, sequential?
Yeah, like one after the other. Mm-hmm. Like, I think that there's, like, you can look at it like that, and you can try to extrapolate down and try to see all these, like, potential futures of where it's going to go wrong. But I think as far as right now, where it's at, I think it's overall a positive thing. Like, I think that there's going to be a lot of things that we don't realize that are just going to make our life so much easier.
No, it's going to be like the internet.
For me as an audio engineer, what if I was able to go into, you may actually already be able to do this, go into ChatGPT and say, I want an instrumental with, or I want a beat with these instruments in it. I want it mixed in this style, and I want it to have this feel. I want it to be this BPM, and all of these things, and it just generates an instrumental which takes out like what 10 or more hours of my process.
I think that where the Chat GPT thing, is that right, or the AI thing should, I feel like having like an AI assistant, like a legitimate AI assistant that was like, okay, I want you to go like file my passport, and like you have everything and you're like gonna do it, or like whatever, like file my taxes, and you can literally look back at my previous tax returns and see how I file things and like get to know me so well that you know what fucking things coming through, because I hate this so much, like what payments coming through on different credit cards or whatever, or like card, you know what I mean, like be able to automatically apply it to groceries or to a write-off of some kind, just based off of all of my previous like input, and like be able to get to know me so well that I never have to file my taxes again. Like I'm on board with that kind of thing, like but I'm on board with it as like it's like an internal system in the computer that like is like your AI, like, you know, assistant. When it starts getting like crazy, like people walking around, that's when it gets a little weird. Like Lex Friedman, like I love him, but he was talking about how like he thinks it would be, who was he talking to, that like Matthew McConaughey, about how he thinks it would be so beneficial for someone to basically like have a friend, like an emotional support system. But I'm like, that's, I mean, you're basically asking something that doesn't have emotion to hold your emotion.
I'm pretty sure there's already people that have like fallen in love with AI chatbots, and
there's been some fuckery.
Yeah, so that's already happening, and that's not like it's like an actual person or anything. Like, it doesn't matter what it is, people are still going to like use it as a crutch. Like, I think that it can be used as an amazing resource, but I also think that it can dumb us down, and like everything is very simple, everything is at hand, and
I think it could dumb us down, or it could like kind of I think it'll go both ways.
Yeah,
because I think that like if you have someone who could be like, it could also like it's like for someone like who's just super creative based, like for me, I feel like having something that I can like, so instead of having to take the time to like learn how to fucking play the electric guitar, I could just be like and then like be like, okay, now
like hum a tune, and then
now I mean, which you can kind of do.
Yeah.
But you have to manually do it. Like, I wouldn't know how to do that. But, like, if I could be like, okay, AI Mickey, like, you know, I have this idea, like, draw it out for me. Like, I have this idea of this, like, baby carrier, and it's, like, you know, blah, 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 blah. And, like, they were just able to just, like, boom, and then, like, write me a patent.
That would be nice.
Yes! I think it would, like, expand your ability to, like, just fucking get shit done.
Yeah, sure. I think so. I think for the most part,
I'm taking a positive approach right now, but usually I'm very skeptical.
Yeah, for the most part, I think that there's more positives than negatives at this point. I don't know why, but the thing it brings me back to, like what it makes me think about in terms of me trying to think about cons versus pros, is whenever I was talking about how I think it can dumb us down, like make things almost too easy to where we don't know how to do them themselves. Like, I think back to like history fairs and science fairs, like me having to go spend an entire like day at a library, and like knowing, like as stupid as it sounds, the Dewey Decimal System, knowing how to ask if they have a book and then knowing how to find a book, that seems so outdated to me now. I can't tell you the last time that I went to a library, not with the kids, to like look for information, and I remember that's all I used to be able to do. And now I wouldn't know how to do it.
Yeah, but how applicable it really is.
That's what I was getting to, is it's not that applicable like nowadays. Like you have to also think about that, like times change, like the way that we gather information has changed, and if you want to be able to do it the most productively, then you need to be up to date with, you know, all the different systems that we have in place that file and sort through all of this like endless amount of information that we have out there at our disposal.
I mean, I definitely think that, like, there is some level of, like, discipline that would be lacking in our society, because, like, you no longer have to, like, go through the effort.
That's not even getting into the kids that have ChatGPT write their essays. The problem with ChatGPT and, like, the writing of essays and stuff like that is...
Chat?
It's chat with a T.
Chat. Like chat box. Like, I'm not gonna, like, meet you in the chat box.
Yes.
Okay.
Like that.
That was Chad. Oh, Chad.
Yeah, that's. I don't even remember where I was going.
Yo,
with
Chad!
that, with the kid.
Write me a song. Well, if I get an AI assistant, his name's gonna be Chad.
Oh, what I was gonna say is, the issue is that it's just like compiling and regurgitating information in a way that it thinks is coherent, but a lot of times it can kind of like make stuff up that's not even there. Like there was a case, I want to say it was like maybe a month ago, where these lawyers got in trouble for using ChatGPT to write their I don't know the term for it, to basically write their I don't know the word.
Are you talking about?
To write their defense for one of their clients.
Okay.
And
I literally was just watching
and it
a
had
law
correct
too.
information in there, but in order to be able to submit it to a judge, you have to give your references,
Subpoena?
like all the other case
Is that what
laws.
it's called?
No, it's like the
Someone's out there like.
I don't know if
this
it's the
you
initial
fucktard.
deposition that you're going to be giving to the judge, like before you actually go into trial, but basically they use it to list all the all the previous court cases, hearsay, that they're going to be
Objection,
referencing, that they're going to be referencing throughout the case, and so it basically just made up references, and it made up fake court cases that it referenced
To
in
like
what it
win the
wrote.
case, like to
just,
make it look
just
better.
to make its argument make sense. And so they go through, and the lawyers were dumb. Like, why would you not go back through that? But it's like the same case for kids using ChatGPT to write essays nowadays. Like they're not going to go back
But
through.
the thing
and
about
look
that
at
too
it.
is like what I'm thinking. Like I don't think that ChatGPT like lives up to that at all. Like I feel like this so far is like meh. Okay, like you literally have to have. So, like, in order to be able to, like, have it write your essay, you have to be so fucking thorough on, like, what it would need to be. And then you have to, like, I don't know, like, it's just like, okay, well, then why wouldn't you just write it at that point?
You think I wasn't thorough whenever I was in middle school or, like, early high school? Like, teachers don't expect you to be thorough, and I think that's where they get caught, because ChatGPT
No, I'm saying you have to be
more
so
trickily thorough.
No. Like, I'm saying you have to be so thorough when you're telling ChatGPT what you want it to write. Like when I see these people, like they have to teach courses to teach people how to tell the system to like write what it wants, and you have to be like, so it's like, okay, well, why wouldn't you just then write it? Because like at that point you're telling it exactly what you want.
That's what I'm saying. You have to use it more as a resource right now, as far as like.
But that's
small
not what
things that
I
make your
see
life
as like
easier.
an
And
AI.
it won't be. You also
assistant.
you have to think about it. It's been what, a year and a half that ChatGPT's we've even known about it.
I just
and it's already made
about it like in the last year.
And it's already made this. It's already made this much progress. We're only a year and a half in. Like we don't know how fast it'll progress, and we don't know. Where it's going to take us or how easily it's going to be to get to the point that you're saying that having a personal AI assistant would be awesome. Yeah,
but also it's scary because then like they could be like, oh well, I'm actually much smarter than this girl.
Go ahead.
I'm much smarter than you. I'm just gonna go ahead and blow your house up now and take your kids.
Well, that's pretty messed up that you used a British accent for that.
That was not British. That was some like, what's the chick that was like. That was like German, but like she was all the things. She went to jail for like conning all those people.
I don't know if that's any better.
It's a show.
Yeah, it's the lady that basically sold a machine that you can give one or
that's
one
a
vial
different
of blood.
girl, but
And
yeah.
it's a different girl.
Yeah, but maybe I was closer to that. Yeah.
I don't know.
So, Chad.
This should not be this hard to remember.
My AI assistant's name will be Chad, for sure.
Okay. It's my
You're
name.
Chad.
I don't know how I feel about
Wait,
that.
that's a good assistant name.
My name's Corey, so
What do you mean? You're not my assistant.
just picture, a Chad when I think of someone who's gonna help me with my life.
It's a they. It's an it. Chad.
I don't know.
Okay, wait, going back to my question. What would you tell, like if you had to go back to the 1800s and you had to blow someone's mind, what would you describe?
To the 1800s?
just like to back
It's
in the
not
day.
too crazy. I feel like it's very important the time frame that you would be going back to. If I were going back to the 1800s, I would probably tell them, like, hey, you see how every single person you know is a farmer, has to grow their own food, and has to provide for themselves based off their land?
You're all gonna hate
where
yourself.
I'm from, you don't have to do any of that. You actually like can educate your children. You don't have, you just have to have more children so that you have more workers. Like they're actually going to be able to live their own lives, and there's going to be a grocery store. Grocery stores are fucking crazy, dude. What's a grocery store? Let me tell you what a grocery store is. A grocery store is a place where everything you could ever need and everything you didn't know existed is there for you to buy.
Yeah, that's good shit. Mm-hmm.
That's what I would tell them.
Yeah. I don't know what I would say.
You can't just ask me that question and
you
then...
beat me. I don't know. Tampons.
They had a form of tampons in the early 1800s.
No, they had.
Women
they
weren't
were
just bleeding out on
yes,
the roads
I'm sure
and
they
shit.
were.
No, they were not. There's no way. If anything,
they were definitely not
they'll
sticking.
They'll go shave one of their
little tiny
their
mouses
sheep.
with like a string of their vagina. You'll never have to worry about this.
I don't have enough information to know this.
That was
that's
a
not
bad
thing.
one.
Also, I've never had a period.
Glasses.
So
You'll have something to just like make your vision perfect.
yeah, you know how you like wear monocles now. Well, imagine 2 monocles, and you don't.
Wait,
you don't have to squint.
monocles?
You don't have to squint your eyes to hold them.
Okay. What's a good one?
That's why I'm saying the time period is important because
A juicer. You will have a machine that turns everything you grow into juice.
you can do so much better.
I know. Why is that so hard?
Like
Grocery stores are good because it's like, yeah, like you just said everything. So
okay.
Social media would be interesting to describe. Like basically, we're gonna have an alternate reality.
I mean,
You're
you
gonna
basically
exist as like a separate entity.
I wouldn't even start with there. I would start with like, you know how you send letters through the mail right now? You're going to be able to do that instantly, and people are going to have a piece of glass, like mirror-like glass in front of them, that it's going to show what your letter was on it. Instantly.
Yeah, that blows my mind right now. You're way better at this. Tell me another one. Yeah, I'm not. So the funny thing is that you're way better on the spot in conversation, like coming up with shit like that.
I just can't initiate stuff on the
I
spot.
can interview you.
Every podcast, all right, new format. Every podcast is just going to be an interview of me.
Yeah, it's just me asking you questions.
I don't think I'm important enough to be able to make it very far with that.
Okay. How do you feel about that?
You my therapist?
Yes, that's what we should make this.
Oh, okay, therapy session. This is probably your plan all along, honestly.
You know what I was thinking of when we were talking about the AI bots, and I was like saying how Lex Freeman like was saying how he thinks it'd be nice for everyone to have like a special companion. That I'm like, that's really strange, but I definitely did that as a kid with like AOL, instant message.
Everyone had AIM chatbots.
Yeah.
They were not good, but
But it was like
I mean,
somewhat freeing to just be able to like say all your shit and like it be. I mean, with AI, everything's going to be documented and then sent to the government, so that's a little different. But
yeah, I mean, I don't know how this is gonna sound, but aren't like
you about to get us canceled on our first episode?
I'm gonna try.
Okay.
I'm gonna try my hardest. Aren't like help hotlines pretty much the same thing? Like you're talking to a voice through your phone. You've never seen this person. You will never see that person.
Yeah,
Like,
it's like
if you have a chatbot that can replicate, or like even better replicate, like the proper response to what you're gonna say than an actual person, then I really don't see that much of a difference in it. Besides the fact that I'm dehumanizing the person on the other end of the phone that I'm talking to, which makes me feel weird.
Well, like, yeah, it's hard for me to imagine that right now, just with like how inhuman a conversation seems when I'm talking to a fucking AI. Like immediately when I get on any kind of phone call that's like they're trying to get an AI to answer my questions, I'm like immediately 0, 0, 0, 0. Like I just want to talk to somebody because I feel like I can persuade someone. Like that says a lot about me probably, but like I'm like, okay, in some circumstances, like just the facts, that's not enough. You might need to know that my like stepdad just died so that you can like help me out here.
Well, okay. Who are you calling?
Amazon.
Amazon?
Look,
Listen,
I put $6,000 of shit on my.
I just bought this fabulous three-piece dresser, and like, but you don't understand. Like, there's a piece of it that is slightly dented to where like, if I look at it from a specific angle, I can see. But also, my dad just died the other day, so like.
Yeah, that's fucked up. That's fucked up.
I don't know. You press the zeros. I just go speak to a representative. Speak to a representative.
Yeah,
speak
well,
to a
it's just
representative.
as bad. No, what's worse is like when somebody is like just refuses to speak to a like to say that and will just like
Hang up on you.
What? No.
Some of them hang up on you and be like, I can't process your request right now.
No.
Please call again later.
I'm saying like when you're listening, I immediately think of Michael, who did die, and like like I think of him like being on the phone and like he would be like talking to a robot and say the same thing, like it wouldn't hear him and he would just keep saying it rather than being like talk to a representative or like, you know, like it was like he just kept having the dialogue back and forth. You do that sometimes. I feel like you will just like answer a random like spam call and be a total like, not a dick, but just like you try to spam them back.
Yeah, it just depends on my mood, you know.
Next time you should try to sell them some CDs or something. Like actually get them to listen to our music or something. Instead of being like, oh, like did you hear about the penguins in like the Antarctic that need donations?
I can imagine the next Zoom meeting they're gonna have like, do you believe what this dumbass like he tried to get me to listen to his music?
Yeah.
Okay, so there was I don't know if I feel ashamed of this or not. I can't remember what company it was. It was some wildlife company, but I donated to them, and so they kept calling me back and asking me to donate more. And one of their pitches was like, donate this much amount of money and we'll send you a picture of a polar bear that you are personally helping protect. And so I
better get a letter from this polar bear.
Yeah, so I answered one time and it was them. And I was like, hey, I donated money and I never got my polar bear. And they're like, no, you never got your polar bear? I was like, no, yeah, I never got my polar bear. And they're like, no, we send you a picture of your polar bear with this amount of donation. And I was like, are you kidding me? I bought like 6 fridges. I put them all in one room, and I have this room up to the temperature that it says on your website that polar bears usually live at in the Arctic or wherever it is. And they're like, that they didn't know what to say. So sometimes I'm feeling like that.
I wouldn't know what to say either. I'd just be like,
I like to think that it made their day more interesting. Good day, sir.
Good day, sir. Yeah, no, I'm sure that they then tap their neighbor. It's like, yo, gotta tell you this before you take the next call. Yeah, so you have any questions for me? On the spot?
I do have a question for you, but it's a little more serious of a topic.
Oh.
I say serious, not like really, but like what, this is something that I think that you would have a good perspective on, is what do you think what's the easiest and what's the hardest part of running your own business or making money for yourself, not through an employer? Like, what's the hardest part of being your own boss?
The paperwork and shit like that. Like, all of that stuff I hate so much. And I feel like it's like hard for me to even call myself a business owner because of how bad I am at that stuff. Like, all of the, like, back-end tax stuff, like, that stuff.
You say that, but you've learned so much about it, and you
still,
are
like,
able to do that stuff.
I'm able to do it, but like I'm just saying, like with how much I like procrastinate on that, I feel like I would be that, I would say, and like the pressure of like is like also very hard. Like I was talking about this with like did you listen to my stories the other day where I was talking about this with Young Living about how I feel like I went through a phase where I felt very like I was like in a pressure chamber where like I had to love it. I didn't have an option to, you know what I mean? Like, even though I did love the company, and like now stepping back and not being like financially reliant on that income anymore, and like feeling like, okay, well, if I wanted to walk away, I could. Like, I'm now discovering that I actually do. You know what I mean? Like, I actually really do genuinely. I always really genuinely love the products. We genuinely use the products every day, but like, there's something about being like in that position where like, oh, okay, now I've like I think the hardest part is like, especially when you create a business around your image, because then it's like you feel this pressure to maintain that image, whatever the image was that you built that upon. It's like this pressure. And even though I tried really hard to be as authentic as I could in that, I think that now for my own mental and emotional health, like I feel like having some sense of separation from like things like that are generating income and like just doing things that I enjoy are important. So I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I feel like the difference for like there's a difference between what you were doing and what say like I started a brick and mortar like business.
Right.
Like there's a very different level and kind of stress associated with you having to always be on and you having to present yourself as like a seller, like, and having to create content around that and always having to have like a positive public facing, as opposed to like someone that starts a brick and mortar. It's like, you know, they have started their own business, they're their own boss, they don't have an employer, but you know, all you have to do is be 100% on and engaged with the individual person right in front of you, not the potential people that are going to see you.
And it's like, I feel like usually when you have like a brick and I don't know, like, and I think you can build businesses online like this. I think I just kind of did it, like I feel like I'm like relearning now, but it's like usually when you build a brick and mortar, it's like that, let's say the coffee shop, it's like that coffee shop has its personality, it has its like vibe, but it's not necessarily like you.
There's
like
a
I
level
don't
of
necessarily
separation.
like, you know, like I know the coffee, like in our town, like some people I know, like the owners of like Be Kind or like whatever, but or BGB, but it's like there's a clear separation between like the business and like what the business brings and like the person. And I feel like when you build a business through social media, there's a little bit more pressure of performance there, because it's like you're literally you are selling yourself.
It does really come back to what you said. It like you are the brand.
You're selling yourself.
Yeah.
So like now I'm at a place where I'm like, I want to get back to a place like, and I feel like we're kind of getting there where it's like I can offer my gifts and like lean into my gifts and like be compensated fairly for those things without without putting myself in this like pressurized chamber. I keep saying that. It's like really how I felt, like of just like, okay, well, this has to be the thing that, whatever, you know.
The Seagate sub is subconsciously put the word pressure chamber in your mind. The Ocean Gate.
Ocean Gate. Oh, yeah. Pressure. Yeah. Yeah, I literally, like, I really resonated with that story.
Oh, God.
No.
Don't worry. You're just being crushed slowly. They were crushed instantly, so.
Yeah. No, that really does, like, kind of, like, but it's weird how, like, no matter how hard you try to stay authentic and, like, it still just kind of creeps in on you, like where you like have slowly not said things or done things because like it doesn't fit the things you are selling. And that I don't like that.
Yeah.
But is
like
that even an answer to the question of like
it
the
kind
business?
It kind of is, because what I was gonna say is
but the easiest thing is like it's very easy to make money. I think it's just like the managing of money that is the hardest. I didn't mention that before, but yeah. I feel like that leans into like all the taxes and all of that. It's like the management of money.
Just the money aspect in general.
Yeah.
The reason why I asked is because you, for the first time since you were in Australia, and then before that since you were in Austin, you are working for someone else doing stuff now. And so I wanted to kind of get a compare and contrast of the things that you liked versus the things that you don't like of working for someone else versus working for
That's a good
yourself
question.
and being
Okay, so
100% responsible for
yeah.
what you make?
Okay, so that like I feel like being 100% responsible is like the best and the worst thing, because like now that I am like just kind of like contributing this thing that I have, then I can contribute and being compensated for that. I have a little bit
And not
of,
worry about the product and the
or
public
how it
facing side of
performs. Like
everything.
I'm not having to like, so I'm like creating content for this company. It's like I don't have to worry about the numbers. I don't have to like engage with it. It's like literally this separate thing, and I'm just bringing my gift and like being compensated for that. And I love that exchange. And I also really love like knowing that this is what I need to do in order to be compensated fairly for that, and like knowing that I can get that, like, and knowing how much time I need to be able to get that done, and then knowing that like the rest of my time is like, it's like when I was doing like a lot of what I was doing with like running my own business and having to like, it was like I never really had enough funds to be able to just like push myself over that limit. So it was like I was always just kind of like at that point where it was like we were making money, but it was like I constantly had to be making present money. Like it needed to keep coming in like every moment
It's
by
past
moment.
money that you made. Like it's not.
Yeah,
it doesn't
so it's
count
like
for-
okay, like you don't get to just show up today and then like have off on the weekends. It's like if you want money to keep coming in, you have to keep showing up, and that just like kind of wears on you. But I feel like with like my job now, it's like I can just show up on the weekends or just show up on these days that like is available, and I'm not having this, because like when that was the case, it was like no matter what was going on, I felt guilt. I felt guilt for not being present with the kids, or I was with the kids and I felt guilt about not working and bringing in money. And I feel like now I don't really have so much of that, like that pressure when I'm with the kid. Like there's definitely a part of me that's like just likes to work. So there's that of like, I'm always thinking of new ideas. I'm always thinking of things like that. And so like, that's just kind of like in my nature, but I don't have that pressure to like, it has to happen right now. Like, here's this idea, I needed to like literally make this happen right now, and like in order for it, like I feel like having something that is like, okay, like I can do this on the week, whatever, I can deliver that, I can be compensated for it, and I can like enjoy this, like it's easy money, and I'm like, what the fuck is easy money? And it's weird for me because I feel like I've been like trying to push myself back into a place where I'm working more, doing up, like just whatever, and I feel like it's like, I don't know, I'm like just, also part of me is like just enjoy this, because I think that like right now with how old the kids are, it's like a good thing to be able to be in that space. But yeah, so I would say that, but then I'm like the opposite end of that. It's like I like feel very controlling of like I'm watching them use the content, and it's like I want to have more say, but I'm like, no, you don't need a say, like, you know what I mean, like your say doesn't matter. You're getting paid what you wanted to get paid, so like you don't need to have a say. But then
this is
it's
the
like
agreement that you made.
yeah, well, and I don't think they would mind. It's just like, why do I need to have a say? It's not my business. And so like that's weird for me, because it's always like I always have a say. Like, so that's hard.
Facts.
I always have something to say. But yeah.
Unless we're talking about, what are you going to tell someone from the 1800s?
How's it for you being at work? So background. Wait, we should give them background in case.
What's the background you're going to give them?
Like, you were a stay-at-home dad so when did you come home?
It was 3 years. Basically.
Almost 3. I think it was a little less, but it was just like pretty long.
Mm.
So I was doing network marketing and was doing like coaching in that world as well. And so we had like a couple different forms of income coming in, but it was all based around the same thing. That was kind of like where I was getting at before. It was like, okay, now I'm like this network marketing girl. Like it was like all of my other creative aspects kind of. Anyway, financially things got really well, and so I kind of kept hinting at the fact that he should come home and be with, I think at the time we just had Atlas, or did we?
We just had Atlas. Because when you really started to take off was whenever we were actually in the hospital with Atlas.
Yeah. Well, pretty, yeah. I mean, it was going up quickly. We
Yeah.
weren't making like that kind of money
Mhm.
yet, but yeah, we were like, we were seeing it.
That was when it was really like, okay, this can.
It was
like,
really
you
when
see the
COVID
growth,
happened.
and so you can see the potential in it.
It was literally when COVID happened, like my income tripled. He had to be home because he was like a teacher at the time. And my income like tripled in that like few months that everybody had to be home. And then you decided not to go back at that point.
Yeah.
And so then it was like we kind of spent COVID years like together as a family, like kind of like doing our own little like personal traveling. Like we went to Montana for a month, we went to Idaho for a month, like we did a lot of different things like that. But then like slowly, like what I was saying about like the pressurized, I feel like I like just slowly hit burn. Like it was like a slow death. Like I was just like hitting burnout and not being able to like catch my feet. And so we decided that for you to go back to work.
Mm-hmm.
So how's that been?
So the first thing I did whenever we had basically decided, you know, I should go back to work, is I worked as a financial service rep for one of our local banks, and
I forgot about that. I don't know why.
It was short, but you know, it wasn't my thing. Like that's really all I can say about it, is it wasn't my thing. So I went to school and got a degree in environmental science. And all throughout school, you know, I was the chemistry tutor. I taught a botany lab, and you know, I was always someone that was educating. So coming from teaching, you know, I really enjoyed that as well. But the job I'm at now, I'm an environmental lab analyst with the city, and so I've really been enjoying it. You know, it's something that's right in my wheelhouse. I like the information. I like what I get to do every day. So it's been positive for me, just from a sense of I have had way worse jobs, for sure. And not saying that this is like the best of a worst situation. I genuinely enjoy what I'm doing, but I've had, you know, I've always, pretty much always had a job at any point in my life. And so it's nice to like what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I do like that, but
I think that should be a priority, or like.
I don't think so necessarily, but from the. I mean, it's definitely a priority.
I mean, obviously, priority.
If I didn't have a family, and I think it would be easier if I hadn't spent the time as strictly as like a stay-at-home father. Like, so I actually got to see them growing up. A lot of dads nowadays, and even a lot of moms, you know, I can't just say that it's dads, but most parents nowadays, you know, they're with their kids less than they're at their job.
Oh yeah.
And being able to be at home with them from, you know, the moment Atlas was born, being able to be there when Skylar was born, and like being there after, and actually like watching them to grow and develop and turn into the kids that they are now. Like it's just an entirely different like perspective than I think a lot of parents get with how much most people have to work. And the thing that's hardest on me is that I can see the like just the small differences in the way that they treat someone, or like the amount of confidence they have in a person that is there 24/7 with them versus a person that is working a 9-to-5 job, or in like an 8-to-5 job with lunch. That
it's definitely like it's so weird and different, and like it's so funny because it's like it's so crazy to think that this is so normal for people, and it just feels so weird for us. Like it feels like, at least for me, I feel like yours like got into your flow, but it feels very weird for me.
Yeah, I've always had a job, but for you, I can definitely see that as like, yeah, someone who had a partner.
Because
that
in
was
my
there
mind, I'm always
24/7.
like, wait, there's so many other ways to make money. But then it's like, that there's the risks of that. Like it's, yeah. So like I definitely.
Which we experience both sides of that.
Right,
like,
and I get both sides of it a lot more now. It's just like, it's the same as like getting both sides of like the holistic life and like hospitals. Like with Atlas, it was like I was so anti-hospital, and then like he wouldn't be here had it not been for the surgery that, you know, so it's like there's that of like you kind of go as you like become more of an adult, you go through these like things that just like have you find an appreciation for, because I was always just, I mean, that's like also kind of what you get instilled in you in network marketing is like how just awful that is, like, you know, like how like why would anybody do that, why would anybody do like a night, you know, so it's like you're preaching this whole like get out of that and like get into this and like all of that, and like I feel like that, I don't know, like you get both sides.
Mm. Yeah, so to answer your question, it's been good. I enjoyed my job. I don't like being away from you and the kids, but you know, that at least there is an upside. Like I'm not going to a place that I hate. You know.
But do you feel like, okay, so that's work. Like, do you feel like this is where the therapy starts? Do you feel like okay, for me, with this job I have now, I feel like it's weird for me to be content. Like that's a hard thing for me. Like to be, I mean, I feel like we use the word complacent sometimes, but I like the word content better.
Use
like,
content then.
Yeah, I feel like it's weird for me to be content just doing anything ever. Like I feel like I always feel like I need to be doing more, like I need to be doing something else. And right now, it's like, even though in my mind I have all these voices of like, oh, you could be doing this, and this, and like there's so many other ways to like bring money in, and there's so many, but like right now I'm like super content with like just being able to like give a part of myself and get compensated for that. But I also feel that it's that is temporary for me. I feel like I'm in a season of rest and like a season of like being with the kids, and a season, and I feel like that season will come to an end. Like I know that in me. Like it's like I'm starting to recognize my seasons, and then it'd be like, oh, like I'm cool with being like, just because I'm enjoying it right now. It's like you start like, instead of being like, oh, okay, this is who I am now, and like this is like I'm like totally cool. It's like I'm realizing that like, okay, just lean into this season. Like stop trying to force yourself to go either way, where it's like, you don't force yourself to think like now forever you're gonna be a stay-at-home mom. Don't force yourself to think like, oh, I have to like get these businesses up and going while the time it blah blah blah. And it's just like, just be content in this moment, and like when the time comes and you feel that again, then like lean into that.
Yeah, I see it as like.
But do you feel like with your business, like do you feel like with your job that like that will be a season in which you're content, or do you feel like that's where I get like, that's when I start to get panicky, because I'm like, what if this is something you're content in like forever?
What, this is where she starts to be like, what if he likes us enough to not want to change, not want to be spontaneous and quit everything and come home when like
the time comes.
No, you know, I don't know. I don't think I can answer that right now. For me, it all depends on my circumstances. You know, so we've talked about how, you know, regardless of how much money you're making, because at one point we were making a lot of money, and it, you know, we kind of rebounded back from that. So for me, it's like, okay, I want a certain time period of security to where I know that this is a consistent thing. Like I don't want to get into a situation where we kind of jump the gun and, you know, I came back home again, and
that's the thing though, is like I don't ever see it being that again. Like I think that the lesson for us was that we all, right? But like I feel like the for me, like the lesson was to always make sure we have multiple sources of income, because like it became so much that we were dependent on this one source, and that just in anything that you do, like I feel like if I wasn't bringing any money in, like all of a sudden we're now just dependent on you, like at like your job, it needs to bring in our soul income. Like it's just so much pressure to do that, and then it's like if anything happens with any of those things come crumbling down. So like that is a lot of like heavy, and I feel like going forward, I feel like the most important thing is that we have multiple sources of income, so that if any pillar falls, that there's like other pillars there catching.
Yeah, I think that's ideal.
Yeah. So like I feel like, with that being said, like with your job, like do you think that like you'd want to continue doing that even if there was like another avenue in which you were bringing in that money?
No, I don't think so. Like if I had another avenue that I enjoyed more, that I was bringing the same amount of money in, then no.
Yeah.
I don't think so. But another piece.
But then would you go in like, oh well, this will be another source,
exactly.
so we'll just keep it going.
That would
But
be
then
the hard thing.
so
for
then
me,
how many sources of income do we need? It's like
I don't know how many sources do we need because you
usually. I mean, to be a millionaire, they say you need 6 or 7. So, right now
I'm
we're
just
at
trying to focus
3 or
on.
4.
I just want to be 1,000-aire right now.
100,000-aire. Back there, but yeah, I feel like that's like kind of the decision that needs to be made is like at what point and like how many different sources and that kind of thing. Yeah. But I feel like we're in a really good place right now of like safety, which feels nice. Like
yeah,
just,
you going back to like you are feeling a lot more comfortable with being content or yeah, I guess content was the word you said you wanted to use, right?
and well,
like,
it's like it's not to be confused with complacency because complacency really like that word makes me like
it triggers her.
Yes.
Well, I was gonna compare it to like no matter how much you like running, no matter how good of a marathon runner you are, still like you're still so grateful for when you finish the race and are able to take that full deep breath and be like,
yeah,
I'm like, this is my break. Like I put my work in.
Yeah.
Now I can finally breathe.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I compare it to.
Yeah, that's good. I read a quote was like, or not a quote, I don't know, it was like one of those reels that was just like inspirational. But they were talking about like how when it's like really normal to feel very like exhausted whenever you like finally find a place of like stability and like safety after a while of being in survival. And I feel like we're definitely like, it was crazy because we were making like more money than I could like ever imagine myself making. But then I got like really one track minded on that and was like, okay, well this is working. So like, but it was really supposed to be that like when we started making that kind of money, we would take that money and start, like I always wanted to do that. I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to have my own businesses. I wanted to have multiple businesses, but I just got very like, oh, this is the thing. This is the thing that I'm going to do because it's what's working. And like, I need to focus on it because my numbers were just skyrocketing every month. And it was like, I was hitting all of these new ranks and getting all these awards and we're going on all these trips. And I was like, just riding that wave. And I wasn't putting any finances towards first savings or towards like, a mom was talking to me about this because my mom has had multiple businesses in her life too, and she was like, the worst thing ever is when you acquire the most debt when you're making the most money.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of like what we experience is like as you make more money, there's like more obligations that you like in any business. It's like you make more, it costs more, and like we really discovered that. And then also another thing that happens when you start making money is that you realize how much of like a whole, like how much of like, and I'm not even talking about like debt. I'm talking about like, because we didn't really have a lot of debt when we started making that kind of money,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like you realize like how self-deprecating you've been, if that makes sense. Like, or just like, is that the right word? Like,
well, I almost feel like it's that you start making that amount of money, and so when the wave starts, like, you know, when you start to get into shallow water and the wave's starting to kind of like crash in on itself, you're like, no, there's another wave coming. Like all I have to do is keep riding this.
yeah.
And so
And there still could be, but it's like there was
there's
nothing
required to be able to get you through
Right.
that you know.
Yeah. And I feel like that happens in
depression.
every business, but the problem is if you don't have anything else to lean on, then there's no getting out of that because like you have to keep yourself afloat in that.
That's where the cycle starts.
Yeah, somebody was talking about that, about like how hard it is to start like a product-based business because you basically have to have like
you have to front everything.
You have to front everything. So it's like, okay, and like a lot of businesses fail because it's, let's say like, okay, they have like $5,000 worth of product and they're trying to become like a $500,000. It's like, well, you have to be able to front that $500, get that amount of product, and then you have to be able to do it again before you actually see the profit. Because like once that goes out, like once all of that product is sold, you have to get all of that out and still have the flow to come in, like to get.
That's if you come in with
before you even see the money, you have to have the next flow of money.
Yeah,
yeah.
And that's if you come in with like a well-oiled method of like, okay, these are the this is the money I'm expecting to get. This is the money I'm putting in. So when I get whatever I get back, you know, I'm gonna put this amount back in. It's usually not like that. It's like, holy shit, I finally got this amount of money. Okay, I made this product using these materials, these sources. Like when you first start out at, you know, such a low inventory number, it's like you're getting them from one place, but you're like, yeah, well, if the trajectory stays like this, then I should buy more, and then I'm gonna have to switch. And so you immediately like put any amount of profit that you would have had back into growing when you don't necessarily need
and
to
like
grow.
you do that in network marketing. People will say that it's not as, but it is very similar to having your own business, because you end like you have systems, and then you end up like, I always did like welcome packages, and I did giveaways, and I did like gifts for people who rank. So there's always so much money
that you can potentially put in.
That you could, yes, but like if you're gonna really like the way that I was running it as like our sole income and sole business, that's how you had to really do it, is like treat it like that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so like I feel like if that is definitely something that like I feel like I've really learned and recognized like how important it is to have those different pillars, things that like I definitely don't believe in like the like just like quit your job and like go for it thing anymore. Like I feel like if you have the drive, like I feel like if the drive is there, then it's like you figure out how to do it in the midst of like you can provide, especially when you have kids. It's just everything changes when you have kids. But like I feel like you make sure they're provided for, and like you, because in that there's so much stress relieved. Like when we know our bills are paid, and like we can send our kid to a school that we want to send them to, and like those types of things, then like that relieves so much like angst and like constant thinking. Like I would be just like constantly reeling, and there would be like no space for creativity, no space for me to be able to like lean into the things I enjoy, or lean into the ideas or dreams or like things that I could see at being a possible like awesome thing. It's just like it's hard to stay in that space when you're constantly thinking about how to survive. So I feel like I would like definitely recommend to people to like, if you have a steady job, or if like someone in your like, or if you're whatever, like keep it longer than you think you need to keep it.
It's I really have to tell myself that it's a luxury to have your biggest issue for growth be having to figure out time management, because that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Like you really have to, you really have to track everything that you're doing, and even if like say you want your main income to be the thing that is what your creative outlet is, you have to be able to learn to like show up when you're not feeling creative. You have to be able to learn to like, get into whatever headspace you need to be in during that time, and the more time you put into doing that, one, it's going to get you closer to where you don't necessarily have to do that. You can like go off and quit what your other main source of income is and focus on what you actually want to do. But also, whenever you force yourself to do that for longer than you think you need to, you're going to instill those habits of like, okay, I have taught myself to flip on a switch. And
I now just like freed up all of the space to like either like to still maintain that discipline, and like definitely don't think we've mastered that. No. I think like I think that like you also have to like honor the season that you're in. Like I think that that's something that I struggle with the most, because I'm constantly feeling like just
you're very now oriented.
Yeah, like right now. It needs to be implemented right now, or it's never going to get done, and it needs to be completed now. And I think that like honoring the fact that we have taught, like that has taught me so much or it has just given me like so much space to like work on my patience and like work on my like acceptance of where I am right now, because oftentimes I'm like haven't brushed my teeth, haven't changed my clothes, like I've just been like wiping ass all day and like dealing with children screaming at me and throwing all of this, and then it's like, and then like you just have to learn how to like snap into like, okay, now I'm a professional making these videos for this professional company that has like a very large customer base, and you just have to like learn how to just like snap your fingers and like turn into that person while you've just been like literally haven't spoken to a normal human being all day. Like you've just talked to like, you know, like I like you have to also honor the fact that like that is a different
Right.
season of life, and like it's not always going to be that way. So like first off, like appreciate that it's not always going to be like that, and like yeah, like no, I feel like my time will come where like there will be more space and time and energy available to us, and we just have to be able to have enough discipline to be able to like integrate that in, I guess. I don't know.
When you say that, it makes me like think of like the phrase, you know, fake it till you make it, force yourself to do it. But really, I feel like it's like, and this is clever, do it till you prove it. Do it till you prove it. You don't have to fake it. Just like show up and fucking do it.
That tattoo again.
I don't know if I feel it that much.
Do it till you prove it. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's been over 2 hours now.
Has it really?
Yeah.
Did you pause it?
It's still going. I just
I
zoomed out so I could see how long it was.
Cool.
Yeah. So that was our first podcast. Happiness Needs Company. If you want to start giving us topics to talk about, you know, we'd appreciate it.
Yeah, I don't know where they would do that at. Where do they find us? Can they comment?
I hadn't thought about that part yet.
Well, we'll be in touch.
We want them to be in touch with us.
Subscribe.
All right, that's that. Bye.
Bye.